Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. First of all, let us introduce ourselves. So we are from the Decision Making K class, Faculty of Administrative Science, Brawijaya University. My name is Aqila Salsabilla and this is my friend Joan Putra. And in this video, we will be explaining about the rational and intuitive decision making models with the study cases in how the South Korean government handling COVID-19 pandemic, both using the intuitive and rational decision making models. And in this video, there will be 3 sessions, which is the first one is literature review, the second one the study case, and the third is the question and answer session. Okay, so let's begin with the first session, and I will be explaining the first session. So in making a decision, to solve a problem, it has various types. Every decision maker often different in making a decision, and also the situation that they are facing has become one of the factors in how a decision is being taken. Decision making is multifaceted and multidimensional phenomenon. The variety of focus in decision making is from discipline to discipline. The most important decision is related discipline are economics and psychology, as stated by Horson in 1999. Rational style is the brainchild of economics, whereas intuitive style is the creation of psychology. Okay, so we will begin with the rational decision making. Rationality refers to an analytic, systematic, rule-based, and explicit mechanism for decision making, as also stated by Hodgkinson and Haley in 2011. Rational decision making is often used for a certain situation or a situation that often occurred. In using this type of decision making model, it has a pattern in which usually follow the stages or steps in decision making process. Individuals preferring rationality follow a step-by-step decision-making process, which includes identifying and formulating the problem, thoroughly assessing pertinent information, generating a set of alternatives, evaluating the costs and benefits of these alternatives, and ultimately making logical choices based on conscious deliberation. So, as an easy way to understand what is the rational decision making, it can be concluded that the rational decision making model is a structured decision. This kind of decision making model is formulated and created with the following steps, and it cannot be spontaneous and often take times due to the steps that should be done. Okay, so in rational decision making, several approaches are used as stated in Champok's in 2010. Which is the first one is maximize or minimize the goals. The decision maker has a goal that they want to maximize or minimize. That goal can be profit, revenue, market share, cost, and so on. The second is knowing alternative and result. The decision maker knows alternatives and their result. They have complete information about each alternative. The decision maker is also fully knowledgeable about the degree of risk and uncertainty associated with each alternative. The third is using some function to give a preference model. The decision maker uses some function to give preference order to the alternatives under consideration. The decision maker knows the function at the beginning of the decision process. And the last one, the fourth applies the preference ordering function. The decision maker applies the preference ordering function to the set of alternatives and chooses the alternatives that maximize the goals. So a rational decision making model has a goal to maximize the output and outcome of the decision that is being taken. In the way doing it, it needs complete information about the choices of solution that should be taken. Besides that, knowledge also important, and it means that the expert is needed to get involved in the decision making process. And when it is being formulated, the decision maker should be able to calculate or measure the risk and the benefit that can be caused by the decision that is being considered. Okay. With the both of those types, the rational and intuitive, sure, both of those types, when we implement it, there will be the problems and also the benefits. I will go with the benefits first for the rational decision making models. So there are several benefits of this decision making model that's stated also in Champok's 2010. The first is predicted result. It means that the decision that is chosen is already can be predicted for the result due to the measurement and consideration in the formulation. The second is knowledge. It means that the decision maker is also fully knowledgeable about the degree of risk and associated with each alternative. And the third, the last one, is information. It means that the information that is being used is complete and it can provide more knowledge to consider which the best to be taken. Okay, so there are also some problems in here. Time-consuming, effortful, complex consideration. So as stated in Calabretta in 2017, the problems or obstacles in this decision-making model also caused by its systematic and structured nature. Rational decision-making can be slow, time-consuming, and effortful, and thus not always appropriate to deal with time pressure, complexity, and uncertainty of innovation decision-making. The systematic steps and also the need for a lot of information and knowledge to consider which decision can be maximized, the output and outcome, it takes more time where it cannot be used in the situation where it needs a fast response. So that's all for the rational decision making model, and we go to the intuitive decision making models. Okay, first is the definition of the intuition first. So the definition of the intuition that's stated by Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary in 2017 is that the intuition is a natural ability or power that makes it possible to know something without any proof or evidence. It is a feeling that guides a person to act a certain way without fully understanding why. Intuition is not only helps decision makers deal with uncertainty, but also stimulates those creative cognition that are essential to the generation and exploration of novel problem solutions, ideas, and related business opportunities, as mentioned by Claxton 1998. Okay, so the main characteristic of these models are that they are descriptive rather than prescriptive. They take ill-defined goal as normal. They emphasize the importance of perception. Satisficing is considered more relevant than optimizing. Mental modeling is an element in decision making, and decision making is essentially domain specific, and therefore accumulated experience is essential. Okay. Intuitive decision making dispenses with the concept of optimizing choice and assume that human decision makers use much less formal but much faster strategies. So this is the differences, the big differences between rational and intuitive decision making. That human decision makers use much less formal but much faster strategies. It is based on observing expert in real life situation. Real life situations are often complex and also messy. And they may have a number of characteristics, such as the first one is ill-structured problems or not artificial and not well-structured problems. The second is situation that uncertain. The dynamic environments means that it is not static and not simulated situation. The third is ill-defined, shifting or competing goals, means that it is not clear. The goal is not clear and not stable. The fourth is numerous action or feedback loops, means that it is not one shot decision, so they can take another decision after. The fifth is severe time constraint, as opposed to ample time for text. For example, like this text should be done for 5-month periods, for example, but because there is a limitation in time, they should make a fast and quick decision only for 5 days, for example. And the next is high stakes. not situation devoid of true consequences for the decision maker. And the next is multiple players, as opposed to individual decision making. This decision making model needs the good skills of the decision maker due to the use of instinct. And to create and build those skills, it requires the followings mentioned by Metzler in 2007. The first is experience. The more extensive a decision maker's experience, the more patterns he or she will be familiar with. The more patterns, the better intuition. When an experienced or executive attributes a decision to gut instinct, he is saying in different words that he recognizes pattern from experience. The next is networks. Executive need networks in order to share experiences and to hear how their decisions have been perceived. The next is emotional. Intelligence neuroscience named Joseph Ledoux has proven that the amygdala, where site in the brain of emotional memory, it is categorized stimulation and triggers behavior faster than cognitive processes. In other words, emotion precedes cognition. The next is tolerance. Intuition grows best in an environment in which both positive and negative experience can be had. For top management, this requires a willingness to tolerate mistakes. Senior executive can create such cultures by publicly and continuously supporting people who take risks and make mistakes. The fifth is curiosity. Despite career pressure, senior executives shouldn't rein in their curiosity. It is a prerequisite for discovering new opportunities. And the next is limits. Like any good thing, reliance on intuition can be taken to extreme. Cannot be taken to extremes. So as we know that everything that too much is not good. So it needs a limitation in there. Okay. So we go to the benefits. As I said before, both of these models are having their own benefits and also problems. Okay, we go to the benefits of the intuitive decision making model. So there are several benefits of these decision making models. The first one is handling uncertainty. When in a situation where the level of complexity is high due to the uncertainty of the problem, this model can be used to make a decision. The second is short time. The short time period, where in the situation of a highly needed solution to solve a problem, intuition can help to create a creative idea to lead the answer. The third is creative idea. It can solve a problem where that cannot be solved with science or knowledge, where need more instinct. Okay, and the next is the problem. In using intuitive decision making, there are some consequences or problems. The first is unpredictable result. The output cannot be calculated well, and it means that it cannot reach the maximized output because it didn't measure well in the first place. And the second is high risk. The mistakes in taking a wrong decision are higher due to the limitation in time, information, and also knowledge. And the third is not preventive, means that it is hard to anticipate any consequences that might be caused. Okay, so as you can see in the video, the figures shown in the slide is how the rational and intuitive decision making models are formulated. Where it can be seen in the practices of intuitive decision making is using emotional equanimity with innovation and also creating mutual understanding. Meanwhile, the rational decision making using the grounding in which showing structured methods providing proof and of the successful past event. The distinction of those models are seen even from the first step. Intuitive is more to the sense of feeling, which is harder due to the complexity and of the uncertain situation. It means that creativity from the sense of feeling or instinct should be good. And on the other hand, rational decision making is emphasizing the methods that successfully had been used in the past event. Okay, so that is all from this session, from the theoretical perspective, the literature review, and we move to the second session, which is the study case session, the second session, and it will be explained by my friend Joan Putra.
Okay, hello everyone, my name is Joan Putra. I'm going to continue Sekar presentation. In this case, I'm going to focus on the intuitive and also rational decision making that have already implemented or taken by South Korean government. Okay, the first we are going to discuss about the rationality system. South Korea provided KCDC, or we can call as Korean Center of Disease Control. KCDC have a lot of work to do, especially related to managing virus or pandemic. Back then, KCDC also have already exist when MERS virus exists in South Korea. Well, KCDC providing a few things such as data and also informations. What is the function of the data? Is to make valid information that can be shared to the public. Well, KCDC actually they upgraded a few things, especially the information. The information that the KCDC provides is not only about the virus itself or how many people died due to the virus, but also a lot of things such as how to follow health protocol, how to provide socializations to the people, and etc. Besides that, they also provided professional specialties related to the virus. Well, besides that, KCDC also providing policy and regulation. What kind of policy and regulations? It have a kind of policy. It could be related to how to manage and control the virus itself, about the normal activities and etc. And what is the purpose of this policy and these regulations? Of course, it's to maintain the flattening curve of the virus, of the COVID-19 virus exactly. Okay, now we are going to the next slide. Okay, as you can see on my presentation, there is a curve of active cases. Number of infected people in South Korea started from February 2020 until until April 2021. As you can see, there is an increased curve in the first outbreak. Yeah, it shows that the pandemic has become something that really serious. But only in a few months, I think it's around 2 until 3 months, the South Korean government can handle that very well. It proved by the data that getting lower or decreased for quite long time, yeah, until it finally suddenly increased very drastic around December 2020 until January 2021. From what I heard from the news, that I think things that make this curve is suddenly increase so bad is because the South Korean government trying to to make easier policy to the people. They already open many public places, attraction places and etc., such as karaoke, bar, and I think it's become one of causes why the curve is suddenly increased so bad. But from that, because of the fast response from the government trying to handle that until it's finally getting decreased time by time until today. Okay, now we are going to talk about the intuitive decision making. Well, as we know, South Korean government have already experienced past pandemic, MERS pandemic. At the time, the South Korean government is not that really concerned with the virus because they don't want to make panic attack to the people. Well, even in intuitive, the way the government taking decision or making policy is not that very rational. They still they still try to learn something like that, especially for the healthcare system. Well, we know that the healthcare system in South Korea actually is very, very good. But because of the COVID-19, it's changed totally. Because the South Korean government itself never faced, already faced a virus, but never faced kind of virus that very, very huge like this. That's the reason why some healthcare facilities such as the amount of nurses, doctors, and another hospital facilities is not enough yet, something like that. Okay, we can continue. Okay, as what I have said before, there is a MERS pandemic in 2015. Well, at the time it's become a problem. Why it's become a problem? Because hundreds of people died due to this virus, and then the government also not give any information or socialization related to this MERS virus. So then not many people know about this. So it become very, very, very big problems at the time. Why the cases is quite high at the time is because less of information and make the awareness of people is not very, very high, which means it's a low awareness. But when the South Korean government facing COVID-19, they don't want to do the same mistake. So they pay a lot for their past mistake. They try to give openness and accountability to the public. They provide informations. They always update latest information each day related to COVID-19, the new cases or new number of people infected, and also how many people get that and recover due to the virus. So from that, it increased the awareness of the public, of the people. So the people of South Korea more aware and more understand how to protect themselves during the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay. Besides that, in intuitive decision making, South Korean government also try to be very, very responsive, very quick response in handling COVID-19. There are a few things that have already done by the South Korean government. In the first outbreak, South Korean government trying to test more than 4,000 of people. Not only that, the government also trying to reduce potential infections in medical facilities, enhancing national testing capacity, and etc. And it's proof that the South Korean government trying to do a partnership with private sectors, especially private hospital and something like that. Because like what the South Korean government said that the public healthcare in South Korea is not that good enough. And then around April 18, the South Korean government also providing massive tests. Is around 10,000 people per million. Not only that, the UK Prime Minister also suggested that it needs 60% of the people of South Korea to be infected, and then to those people who are infected and then they can recover, it could obtain or increase their herd immunity, which their blood it can be transferred to other people that still infected the virus, and it can make another people that still infected by the virus recover soon. And I think in Indonesia itself, Indonesia also do the same thing. Okay, we can continue. South Korea also proactively identified its infected cases. So they're trying to find out if there are persons that infected by the virus. They try to find out where these persons were going before this person is known infected by the virus. So they really proactively identify to solve the problem as fast as possible. And then the government also providing drive-through and walk-through testing. So yeah, it's become very easy. You don't need to go to clinic or you don't have to go to the hospital, because you can directly go to drive-through or walk-through testing. And it's also cut your time, so it can be more fast and efficient. And then the increasing number of epidemiological professionals it's also being increased. Like what I have said before, KCDC or Korean Centers Disease Control try to increase the professionals' rights, and one of the examples that done by the KCDC is by increasing the number of epidemiological professionals. And then the government also reducing potential infections in medical facilities, enhancing national testing capacity. Well, as you can see on this slide, there is a data about the daily deaths and also the daily new cases in South Korea. As you can see, yeah, there is an increase curve, and even as the increase, you can see the total of people who recover is around 104. More than that persons are recovered from the virus, and I think this amount is still much better if we compare another amount in another country, especially in Asia or in East Asia and something like that. So I also could say that the South Korean government, with their own obstacles, they are able to taking care of COVID-19, and of course time by time they still struggling to give the most effective and the most efficient way in handling the COVID-19. Okay guys, I think that's all enough from me. Thank you and I hope you enjoy this.
Okay, now we are in the third session, which is the question and answer session. I will read the first question from Alifah Dava Ananda from the group 3. First of all, thank you so much for the questions. Okay, so for the question is, how can a 3-step process for managing intuition and rationality to be applied in South Korean rational decision making as response to COVID-19? Okay, so I will answer this question from Alifah. So there are steps on rational theory that need to be understood, which includes identifying and formulating the problem, thoroughly assessing pertinent information, generating a set of alternatives, evaluating the costs and benefits of these alternatives, and ultimately making logical choices based on conscientious deliberation. Now, how the South Korean government applied the rational decision making to respond to COVID-19? Actually, before the COVID-19 access in South Korea, they have learned how to face a pandemic, which is MERS. They pay a lot of attention to learn and manage things related to the pandemic. At first time, South Korea is still confused and don't know how to provide good regulation or decision while MERS access. The government closed the information access to MERS and make chaos to the public and affected the public trust and the accountability of the government. Now in COVID-19 era, they don't do that thing anymore. South Korean government providing updated information every day to the public. Besides information, South Korea is also already prepared about the knowledge because they have an expert that concerned with this kind of problem called KCDC. So the data of infected people and information about the outbreak is being shown to the public, and also the tracing method that they did to prevent a larger number of infected people in rational decision making process. Okay, as we know, there are 3 steps in here. The first step is called preparing the ground, and it is done by the South Korean government by considering the structured methods stated in the regulation made by the KCDC. The second step, called developing the outcome, is and it is done by the South Korean government by gathering all the information about the virus and make a collaboration in government to be gathered to handling the problem. And the third, the last step, called embedding. It is done by the South Korean government by formulating guidance that is applied in the policy and regulation in handling COVID-19. South Korea already aware. So South Korea already aware about the steps or method that they have to do, since they provided with the good information and knowledge about communicable disease and they also already have a department or ministry which full of expert people that concern in handling a disease with a great data support of infected people and its tracing. Those things give a good impact on the formulation of a decision by the government, which can help them in calculating and measuring and considering a solution to produce a regulation and policy, even though it takes a time to formulate it. And due to it takes a time to formulate it, at the first time they facing a high peak of the curve on sometimes a while, but after the policy and regulation in handling COVID-19 being released, in short time it can slowly flattening the curve and managing the curve to be still in a low position. So I think that's the answer for Alifa's question. Moving to the next question will be answered by Joan.
Alright, now I'm going to answer a questions from second group. The first question comes from Arnina. Arnina asked that, in your paper, there are the problem intuitive decision making. How to solve the problem intuitive decision making? Okay, it's of course right, there is a problem in managing or facing the intuitive decision making. There are some problems like the South Korean government still lack of public health facilities, but from that they're trying to do a partnership. They work together with the private health sectors, so it could help them to increase the amount of nurses, doctors, or armies, and etc. Besides that, the South Korean government also do another approaches. These approaches are related to the agile and also proactive thinking, something like that. Okay, now I also want to show you what kind of approach in agile and adaptive approach that provided by the South government. They're trying to give, like what I have explained in my presentation, tested a lot of people in the first outbreak, and then trying to give another kind of test to the people, so the people in South Korea is test as soon as possible, and then they're trying to reduce potential things that can increase increase the infections by providing a good facilities, enhancing national testing capacity, and etc. Not only that, they also focus to herd immunity that can help another people that's still affected of the COVID-19 virus. Not only that, the government also trying to be very proactive in managing and handling the COVID-19. If there a bit matters, for example, in some region there is a new cases, the Korean government trying to be very fast to handling that, with the purpose not to make the spreading of the virus become more massive. And then the South Korean government also work together by an institute called KCDC, or Korean Center Disease Control, and providing policy, regulation, data and information, and also providing epidemiological professional, and of course reducing many things that related to the infections. Okay, now I'm going to answer a second question. The second question comes from Latifa. The question is, in a case of decision making, is it possible to combine intuitive and rational decision making? Alright, according to our discussion between me and also Sekar, we do agree that the intuitive and also the rational decision making could be combined. As you can see on our paper and our presentations, South Korean government implement rational decision making and also intuitive decision making while handling this COVID-19. In rational, the example of the example of the implementations, like providing information, providing data, and something like that. That is the proof that the South Korean using rational decision making. Besides that, in another case, for example, for healthcare, even South Korea have a very good quality of healthcare, but the South Korean government still lack of knowledge, especially this COVID-19 virus is the first in our world, right? So every country try to fight a lot to this virus. That's the reason why for the healthcare that especially related and focus on COVID-19 is still very lack for the South Korean. But even like that, South Korean trying to take an intuitive actions like do a cooperation or partnership with private sectors, especially private sectors that focus on health facilities. Not only that, they also providing a lot of things and something like that. I think that's all enough for the question. I hope it could answer your questions. Thank you.
Alright, I think that's all for today's video. We hope you can understand well about the intuitive and also rational decision making models from what we have explained before in the first session until the third session. And we would like to say thank you so much for watching this video, and we would like to apologize for everything, for any mistakes that we made. Till next time, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.